Let's go find this rascal. Did I get more karma? That sounded like karma. 4. Hot dog. Welcome back. I took care of the business with the Rabengeister. They won't be hijacking our shipments anymore. A faint smile plays across the normally taciturn merchant's face. Yes, this much I know already. The missing shipment arrived just before you did, though I barely caught a glimpse of those who delivered it. How are you able to manage that? I made an agreement with their leader and they agreed to return the weapons. And you've accomplished all of this through diplomacy? Interesting. It is, well, it's not what I would have done, but perhaps that is for the best. Here's your payment as promised. And should you need any new weapons, thanks to you, I have some new merchandise available. Well, let's fucking check it out, brother. Oh, it's got some magnums. Browning max power with a smart link. Cavalier Deputy? Is that a pistol? Damage 14. Jesus Christ. Range combat 5, though. I'm too stupid to use these guns. Kind of tempted to give myself a taser. But I think I might... Whoa. Clothes? I can barely afford any. We'll double check what I... Armor 2, so we definitely want to look at some of your clothes. Armored vest with plates, 10 HP, +1 ranged combat, +1 quickness, +1 dodge, and +1 move speed. That's tempting. Plus I just get to wear a super tight jumpsuit on my troll. We'll see if the wizard shop has anything for us first. Hello, wizard shop? There you are. Please excuse me, go fuck yourself. Why are you in the front of the store? I have a question for you, if you don't mind. You're in luck, I have a great many answers. Oh, you're just... Show me what you're selling. Oh! He's got more stuff. Armor 6. Armor 3 with +1 spell power, +1 spell casting, +1 charisma, +1 spirit control. That's us. Look at this handsome fucker. Once it finally loads. Well, we'll just... That's what I want to wear. Thank you. Really should sell my clothes, but we'll worry about that later. Kami brightens up as you approach her, grinning wildly. Hey there, Altug was just telling me you were around. I was wondering if you might be willing to trade a story or two. What are you looking for exactly? The girl taps a finger thoughtfully against her chin. Well, you're new here. I know that you knew Monica, and I've got a vague idea about what went down the night she died, but I want to know what you think your most exciting adventure has ever been. Hang on, how the hell did you hear about that? She smirks playfully. Remember, I'm Altug's ears and hands outside the cafe. We share a lot of intel, he and I. So what's the story between you two, then? She glances away briefly before returning her gaze to you. I suppose I can tell you, if the Monica thing was a secret of yours, it's only fair I share one of my own. I never really went to school, pretty much been a street kid as long as I can remember, and there was so much to learn from people outside of school that I never really bothered. It makes it difficult to get a job, so as all good street kids do, I chose a place to haunt with my friends and always hung out there. That place was Altug's Cafe, and he was super nice about me and mine. I felt more comfortable with him than I ever did mein Vater. Her eyes narrow only for the briefest moment at the word, and we talked a lot when I was waiting around for my friends. He must have been fairly comfortable with me too, otherwise he wouldn't have offered me a job. What is it that you do, really? Technically I'm the barista, but as I said before, ears and hands. I run his errands, I gather gossip, and sometimes I even make coffee. I much prefer his hookah options, though. Real coffee makes me feel paranoid. Speaking of which, I should probably get back to work. See you around. It's a terrible secret. Wasn't there someone at the cafe that wants to talk to me? I got a fucking stylish new leather jacket for meetings. Luca. Hello, so you're Finneas, eh? Good, you look the part. Let me get right to business. My organization would like to pay you handsomely to take care of some business for us. All you have to do is continue your work, and we will be in touch periodically to ask you to complete very simple tasks. Oh, it's the telephone people, sure. Good, don't worry, I'll be in touch. When I contact you with a new task, you can still take it or leave it. If you take it, return here and I'll pay you a fair sum for your services. If you leave it, my organization will be quite unhappy. I would advise compliance, but there is always some margin for extenuating circumstances. Oh, hey. I found this drone in the hotel vault. Does it belong to you? Yeah, Chief, that's mine. I didn't want to say anything at the time since it was my idea to have you loot the vault in the first place. What was it doing in there? It's my personal drone. Good to have something to hide behind when you're on a solo decking run, you know. Lester took it from me when she seized control of the Schwartz-Herzen. I'd been hoping to get it back ever since. I've got to say, Chief, it hurt me to see her all banged up like hell, the way she was. Looked like Lester had a few of her goons take turns on my baby with a baseball bat, but it looks like you've got her up and running again. How'd you manage that? Mullet fixed your drone. She said that it won't listen to anyone but you, though. Score, so, can I have it back? Sure. I don't know how to use drones. Blitz seemed to have found a home for himself, and he's fucking digging the... Any thoughts on that last run you'd like to share? Nah, nothing we haven't talked about already. Alright, go fuck yourself. That's all two got for us. Oh, just killing time, brother. Paul's probably gonna fucking chew us out for chumming up that other town. Maybe Glory will talk to us some more, though, because that counted as a job. Finneas Urk, welcome back. I have news for you. In your absence, I have been looking into the Harfeld Manor. Whatever Feuerschwing is up to, it is both large-scale and well-funded. I have uncovered a money trail leading from holding companies all over the world to an offshore fund with a dummy address. From here, all of that freshly laundered money flows directly into the Harfeld estate. Wait a second, why would the dragon have investors? That doesn't make sense. It's doubtful that Firewing's pawns even know where their money is going. This is typical of draconic plots. Uncover a stream of money flowing behind the scenes. And there's a fair chance that you'll find a dragon at the receiving end of it. To a dragon, conspiracy is second nature. But Feuerschwing was different. She didn't scheme or plot. She acted. Yes, and look where it got her. When the Firewing launched her attack on humanity, it wasn't an act of hubris. She lashed out because she didn't consider our species to be a threat. It would be equally hubristic for us to assume that she will make the same mistake twice. I will continue digging into this while you and the team tackle your next run. With luck, I will have more information to share upon your return. Sounds good. One last thing, Finneas Urk. Mullet was able to restore the readable surface of one of Green Winters' DVDs. If you'd like to take a look, you will find it sitting beside the player. Just one? She's still working on the others. Many of them are extensively damaged, and getting anything off them will prove to be quite a chore. She has told me that she'll be in touch if and when she makes any headway. Thanks, Paul. Now, about that other town. I sent a man named Korn to talk to. He runs things in a neighboring Keats. They're on hard times, and I promised him some rations. Korn of the Rebengeister. Yes, in fact, I received a message from this man just a short while ago. If this is your wish, I will work with Samuel to coordinate a shipment of surplus rations to the Gesundbrunnen. But I'd heard about Gunnari's missing shipment, so if we are to aid Korn, then I trust that our misunderstandings with the Rebengeister have been resolved? Yes, and I hope we've made some new allies as well. Today it's Gesundbrunnen on hard times, but tomorrow might be the Cruise Bazaar. A wise move, Finneas Urk. I think Monica would be proud. Very well, I shall make the arrangements. I'm glad you were able to retrieve Gunnari's shipment without needless violence. Good work. Now, is there anything else I can help you with? I'd like to ask you about another member of the team. If you have questions about your teammates, I'd recommend checking your mission computer. I know that Monica wrote dossiers on each of them. She'd be the best qualified to tell you about their capabilities anyways. Got a question for you about the Cruise Bazaar. A little slice of heaven, isn't it? What can I tell you about her, Keats? Never mind. Let's check out this DVD. I'll load the DVD labeled Watch Me. Whoops, that's... No, that's the other... the second DVD. Oh, Jesus Christ. Alright, as I said in my last recording, I've been having trouble finding hard facts on Feuerschwing, so I thought I'd open things up a bit. Let's see what the rumor mill has to say. The screen jumps and Winters reappears in a different location. He's now clutching a mug of soy cap in both hands and there are bags under his eyes. Well, that was enlightening, assuming any of it was true, that is. So for the past 5 hours I've been poking around some of the crazier fringe theories related to dragons in the SOX. As a reminder, the SOX is an irradiated wasteland between France and Germany. It got zoned off back in '08 after the Cattenom GAU reactor meltdown. Anyway, there are all kinds of rumors floating around the place. I've heard stories about a walled city in there that operates on a survival of the fittest, kill-or-be-killed basis, sort of like a nightmare inversion of Berlin, all of the anarchy but none of the stability that the F-state provides. The radiation poisoning, cancer, and mana pollution are just the icing on the cake. So when Adrian helped the Luftwaffe shoot down Feuerschwing down, she crashed into the SOX. That much is well known. What isn't well known are all of the modern-day myths that have arisen about her since, and tonight I've heard an earful. I chatted up a girl who claimed to be a ghost rat. That's a smuggler that operates in the SOX. She told me about a dragon cult called the Disciples of the Cleaning Fire. Apparently, these cultists worship some sort of radioactive ghost dragon. Could be Feuerschwing or it could be nothing. But it's worth digging into all the same. Another thing that my little ghost rat told me, the popular rumor in the SOX is that Feuerschwing's astral form was, I guess you'd say, mutated by all that background radiation. Some of the glowpunks out there say that she shed her body like an old coat. Others say that she's trapped, doomed to languish as an intangible radioactive ghost. I don't know how much credence to give any of this. After all, I don't have any proof that my ghost rat is even a ghost rat. She might be, but then, she could also be a run-of-the-mill glowpunk, or maybe she's just yanking my chain and she's never been into the SOX at all. Who knows? Well, it's food for thought anyway. I don't know whether the thought of some radioactive ghost dragon thing is any scarier than a genuine dragon is, but it's interesting all the same. Now the big question is, will any of this get any closer to finding it to Adrian? I'm going to go out on a limb and say no, but you never can tell. Track 2? Alright, let's continue thinking outside the box. After the Dragonfall, the great dragon Kaltenstein came flying into the SOX to rescue the Firewing. But he was driven off, some say killed, by Lofwer and Nebelhair. So, what if there's another dragon involved in all of this? Winters grabs a thick, leather-bound tome from a shelf behind him, licks a finger, and begins to leaf through it. Alright, so let's run down a list of major dragons that could be helping her. First, there's the Golden Worm, Lofwer, the CEO of Seder Krupp, and possibly the single most dangerous being on Earth. Lofwer's a local boy, so he'd be in a position to help Feuerschwing. He certainly has the financial capability to help her. He could send a small arm into the SOX if he wanted to. So he's definitely got the means, but I can't see how he'd have the motive. He actively prevented the Firewing's rescue back in 2012, after all. Same thing is true for Nebelhair, so let's scratch them both off the list. He flips a page, frowning. We've got Aiden, the great Sarash. He's operating out of Turkey. By all accounts, he's not a fan of Lofwer. They're actively competing for territory in the Middle East. So I suppose that could be considered motive. Reviving the Firewing might cause problems for the Golden Worm. But why would he risk a war with Seder Krupp by straying on Lofwer's territory? I don't think it's likely. He turns another page. There's Celador out in Wales. He's pretty heavily invested in Transys Neuronet, so he's got the money. But he's too busy dealing with the BTL killer scandal that Transys is going through out in London to get his dirty claws in the SOX. Dunsel Khan out of the UCAS. He pauses, shakes his head, then slams the tome shut. No, this is a waste of time. The more I think about it, the more convinced I am. The Firewing is acting alone. Dragons don't cooperate unless they absolutely have to. After all, why bother making nice with your equals when you've got an entire planet full of pawns at your disposal? They don't need to work together. They have us to exploit. Oh, this is just gibberish. Fuck that one. Track 4. The file is partially garbled. You can recognize a few words here and there, but they're interspaced amidst a solid block of corrupted text. Vauclair, still my big brother, still searching for... Swear to new research. Won't know who. File is corrupted. The screen fills with meaningless assortment of ASCII characters. Maybe we can decrypt this later. The screen goes black, and the same digital chime that you heard on the Dragonfall DVD plays again. A crackle of static fills the air, followed by that same now familiar electronic whine. A few moments later, the display goes live. The Vauclair looks haggard. His eyes are heavily bagged and bloodshot, and his hair is mussed. He holds a cigarette in an unsteady hand. Hermie, it's me. I can't sleep. I don't know where you are, out having fun, no doubt. Maybe flirting with one of those unattainable beauties that you're always chasing. He tries on a smile, but it quickly disappears. He takes a drag on his cigarette. That's good. I want you to have a pleasant, normal life. After all, one of us should. I can still smell the smoke, Hermie. It's almost a year later, and I can still taste the stench of burning corpses. But when I sleep, I can hear the sirens and the screams. There is no sound in this world as horrible as a burn victim's screams. The doctors would call this PTSD, I'm sure. They'd have me in therapy, maybe up in the SSRIs like they do to our veteran soldiers. He chuckles and takes another drag. Quite a story for the tabloids. The great dragon slayer, Adrian Beauclair, mentally incapable of wrestling with his own demons. He shakes his head. No therapy for me, and certainly no medication. I have a reputation to live up to, however poorly deserved it is, and however little I want it. He pauses, stubs out his cigarette. The dragon is still alive, Hermie. Of that I am certain. One day I will find her, and then perhaps I'll be able to sleep through the night. Eject the DVD. See if Glory wants to talk yet. Oh, hey, friend. Phineas, sir, a pleasure as always. Need anything from me? Are you ready to tell me about that chrome? I'm getting there, Phineas, but you'll have to give me some more time, son of a bitch. If I didn't know any better, I'd think you're warming up to me. I suppose you might say that. I don't talk to many people, Phineas, sir. It just doesn't seem to be worth the effort. I don't really feel much anymore, not since. She caresses the chrome of her forearm with a hand made of articulated steel. This. If that's true, why are you still talking to me? I suppose because you've shown an interest and because you haven't let me push you away. She locks eyes with you, her expression is blank. I don't want to mislead you, Phineas Urk. I still don't feel anything, not warmth or friendship or even trust, but I can appreciate the effort you're making. It's something new and it's worthy of exploring. You said that things went bad when you turned 14? Damn it. The last time we talked about it, you had an impact. I suppose that's true. Feeling discomfort is better than feeling nothing at all. Alright, here's the deal, Phineas Urk. I'm going to talk, you listen. And when I'm done, I'm done. No complaints and no arguments. We'll see what happens. Deal, deal, deal. Right. The 1,000-meter stare creeps back into Glory's eyes. A moment later, she's locked away in her own head again, reliving memories that she'd long since filed away. So a few days after my 14th birthday, I began to express, magically. Judging from what I saw in your aura, your awakening must have been an incredible thing. It was actually fairly standard. The real power didn't come until later, but we'll get to that. Anyway, I turned 14. I awakened. I didn't even remember how my parents found out about it anymore. I think that my dad caught me playing with a tiny city spirit that I coaxed out of a pile of garbage, something like that. With everything that happened afterward, those days are kind of a blur. What I do remember is that my father's response to this revolution was that his little girl was a witch, a hex. He beat the living shit out of me with his fists, and then his belt, and then a claw hammer that he grabbed out of his toolbox. All the while my mother was screaming and flailing at him. She took a couple of licks with the hammer, too. It's a miracle that you survived. What about your neighbors? Did anyone call the police or the prosecutors? Oh, sure they did. Our neighbors were perfectly decent people, even if they couldn't admit to it themselves. They knew what my father was up to. When they heard a woman and a little girl screaming bloody murder, they were the first to pick up the comm. Unfortunately, police response times can leave a little something to be desired. I assume they showed up eventually, but I'll never know. I was out of there well before anyone showed up to intervene, but we'll get to that in a second. So finally, after what felt like an hour, Dad stopped tuning me up with the hammer. I had broken ribs, a busted arm, I couldn't see out of my left eye, and my entire right side was covered with one giant bruise. I was bleeding all over the place, making a real mess of the carpet. The old bastard spat on me, his bleeding, crying daughter. He spat on me, and he told me that I was Des Teufels here, the devil's whore. Then he kicked me out of the house. As I was crawling away, my father told me that if he or any of his Kreuzritter brothers ever saw me again, they'd treat me as the Berlin chapter treats the enemies of God. If you're not familiar with how the Kreuzritters here in Berlin deal with heretics, it's decidedly less pretty than what my dad and his buddies did to their victims. I got the hint, and the next morning I hitched the ride out of Stuttgart. You were a human girl, presumably with an ID. Why didn't you go to a hospital? Oh, I did, but not in Stuttgart. If I went to a local hospital with the kind of injuries that Dad gave me, there'd be questions, and I couldn't afford to stay in town any longer than I had to. Even if my dad wound up getting arrested for beating me, the rest of the local Kreuzritters would have found me, and I'd have wound up skinned alive and thrown in the car. I wound up in Tübingen. I figured it'd be a safe enough place to find medical attention, and maybe to call home. It's not far from Stuttgart, but it has a huge student community that I figured I could blend into, and the university there has a decent magic department. My ride dropped me off at the university hospital, and they patched me up pretty good. Had some questions for me about how I got so beaten up, but I lied and told them that I'd been mugged, which played nicely into my complete lack of cash, credit, and identification. Glory pauses for a moment and looks down at the floor, then fixes her eyes on you. She's visibly tense. We're going to fast forward through the next few years. I was a kid on the street. I got by as best I could doing whatever I had to. The rest we can leave up to your imagination. Good? Good. Thanks. So anyway, I lived on the street for a few years, got used to being hungry all the time, got used to getting rained on, got by. It was painfully aware that I had magical talents, but without any kind of training or guidance, I didn't really know how to use or develop them. Truth be told, they scared me, so I more or less ignored them. So I just sort of went like that until a few days after my 17th birthday. Then I met Marta and everything changed. Marta was a sweet girl. At first I took her for a street kid like me. Her clothes were a little ratty, but she seemed comfortable being near me. But she also looked well-fed and happy, and those were two things that I hadn't been in years. We started hanging out, and before I knew what was happening, I was in love. There was a genuine attraction between Marta and me, I think. But I also think that a lot of my affection for her came from the fact that she was the first person used to give a damn about me. She cared, and I loved her for that. Keep going. She stares at you for a beat, then nods. A few ragged breaths later, she continues. Marta told me about a place where she'd make hanging out. She invited me to join her there. It was called Fürstel, the fireplace, and it was sort of a commune for dispossessed youth. It turns out that a lot of street kids I'd known over the years had moved there. The way that they'd disappeared, I'd assumed that they'd been kidnapped or killed, or had gone back to their parents, but here they were. I remember being kind of angry about it, like, how did everybody get the memo about this but not me? Marta calmed me down. She was good at helping me work through my feelings, and I wound up following her to Fürstel. To a street kid, it was basically paradise. The owner, a guy named Hero, had set up this little farm just outside Tübingen in the Schnackbuch Forest. The Schnackbuch is officially a nature park, but not many people go there nowadays. Too much fear of paranormal animals, I guess. Anywhere, park or not, it was plenty big enough for us to hide, and it was also safe and pretty, and the farm was well stocked with food. Most importantly, Fürstel gave us a sense of community and stability that we'd never had on the street, and we loved Hero for that. He became like a surrogate father to us. Glory pauses again, and you recognize the distinctive flesh in her cheek. She seems to have come out of her reverie once again. That's enough for now. I need to process all of this, and I don't want to continue forward till I've had the chance to do that. I know that this all happened years ago, but I guess it's still pretty raw to me. So I'm going to ask you to give me some space for a while. She turns away, and the frost begins to creep back in her voice. We can pick it up again later. Okay, then.